As surprising or even more surprising than the Mike Vrabel firing, Pete Carroll is now out as the Seattle Seahawks head coach. Now, there is a statement from Jody Allen, the owner of the Seattle Seahawks, saying that Pete Carroll will return as an advisor for the Seahawks. She made it sound good as him evolving in a position from head coach to advisor, but in the end, Seattle Seahawks is now in the looks for a head coach this offseason. Now, being a Seattle fan, I think it's best warranted that we love Pete Carroll as this guy, as he is a real culture identity. He was a real identity of what our culture was. So this next head coaching job, that it needs to be filled by Seattle. It needs to be someone who can step into these big shoes and be able to at least fill them somewhat. Now, overall, I feel like the sense of every Seattle game was always a nail-biter. There was never ever really a comfortable lead where Seattle has ever had. The only time I can remember that was this season against the Giants was the only game I felt like where we were just dominating another team where we should be dominating them. But in the end, over the years, Seattle, it seemed like Pete Carroll, we were never able to get back to where we thought we were, which was the Super Bowl contending team, such as when we were 2 Super Bowl back-to-back appearances. And I think it's well warranted that our offense and our defense just hasn't been up to par to what we expect them to be year after year. One year it's the run defense being poor. The next year it's the pass defense being poor. The next it's anything on the offense, something not clicking on the offense. That's why I think the Seattle's front office decided to make the change and start off fresh, start off with a new culture identity, and hopefully being able to balance all the offense and defense, and hopefully being able to bring Seattle up to more of the team that we wish them to be. Now, I have 3 NFL candidates and also a dark horse candidate that I would love to see them fill in as the next Seattle head coach. My first candidate is Dan Quinn. As of right now, he is the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. But back in 2013 to 2014, when he was with the Seattle Seahawks, he had led them to be one of the top defenses during his time and led them to back-to-back Super Bowls with that defense, and one of them being a Super Bowl win. In 2013 and 2014, Dan Quinn had opponents' points per game averages of 14.4 and 15.9. Now, in today's NFL, the number one defense is the 2023 Ravens, who had allowed 16.5 points a game. And what is he doing this year with the Dallas Cowboys? He's just giving only opponents 18.5 game on an average. So that's pretty good still. Either way, I think Dan Quinn, a reunion back in Seattle would be something. It would give a real boost to the defense. We saw what he was able to do in Seattle. We would love to see what he would do again in Seattle in 2024. The second candidate I would like to see as a Seattle Seahawks head coach is the team I was already talking about, the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, Mike Macdonald. Mike Macdonald has put up this Ravens defense to be one of the greatest defenses of this century. They are giving up only, like I said, 16.5 points per game. Now let me justify why Mike Macdonald would literally save the Seattle Seahawks defense. In Mike Macdonald's Baltimore defense, opponents averaged 109.4 yards per game, which was 14th in the NFL. How much did the Seattle Seahawks allow? 138.4, which is second to last in the league. And how many passing yards were allowed on average in Mike Macdonald's defense? Only 191.9, which is 6th in the NFL, compared to Seattle, which is 233 yards a game, which is 21st in the NFL. Now, sacks are a pretty big deal, and in Mike Macdonald's offense, the sack percentage was 8.65%. 8.65% of plays that an offense runs against the Baltimore Ravens, they are getting a sack, which is 4th in the NFL, compared to Seattle, which is 7.44%, which is 13th in the NFL. And as a Seahawks fan, I think we are one of the teams that really struggle with pass rush. So with Mike Macdonald, I think this would be a great hire to revitalize our defense. The last NFL candidate I want to talk about is the Lions offensive coordinator and Ben Johnson. Look what Ben Johnson was able to do with Jared Goff this season. People may bash down Jared Goff, but he has made Jared Goff into one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this season. Now, Ben Johnson had been the defensive coordinator for the Lions since 2022. Jared Goff has been with the Lions since 2021. And in 2021, Jared Goff had passed for 3,245 yards on 67% completion. He had a 19-8 touchdown ratio that year. Now, what happens when Ben Johnson takes over as the offensive coordinator? Well, Jared Goff then goes for over 4,438 yards the next season, and then this season he goes for almost his career high in 4,575 passing yards. In 2022, he had 29 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, to then this year 30 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. This leap that he had with Jared Goff going from 2021 to 2022 led him to be a very attractive coaching hire this past offseason. Now, he wanted to stay with the Detroit Lions because he really wanted to build something here. Now, if he were to leave, I would think this would be great for Seattle. Just looking at this year, Ben Johnson had the Detroit Lions averaging 27 points per game, which is 5th in the league, compared to Seattle, where they averaged 21.4 points, which was 17th in the league. And Seattle's identity was always to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And what did we do this year? We averaged 92.2 rushing yards a game, which was 28th in the NFL. And how many times did we run the ball per game? 22.5 times, which was just second to last in the NFL. And what did Ben Johnson's offense do? Well, they only had 135.9 rushing yards a game, which was top 5 in the NFL. And they did it with 29.5 rushes per game, which was 7th in the NFL. Well, how did Ben Johnson's passing offense do? Well, Ben Johnson's passing offense averaged 259 yards per game, which was 2nd in the league, compared to Seattle, where they had 230 yards per game, which was 14th in the league. And my dark horse pick would be Jim Harbaugh. I don't have a reason why Jim Harbaugh would be a dark horse pick, maybe because I thought there would be a college to NFL correlation, just like Pete Carroll with his college to NFL correlation, and in his case with USC to Seattle, and for Jim Harbaugh's case, it would be the San Francisco 49ers to Michigan. Even with everything I've talked about, offense and defense, the one thing that is most important to me with this new head coaching switch is time of possession. I feel like I watch a good amount of NFL games, and I watch a lot of Seattle Seahawks games. And the one thing I feel like is very noticeable with Seattle Seahawks games is that we do not hold the ball very long. Just this year, the Seattle Seahawks ranked dead last in time of possession with about 26.5 minutes per game. And how about those 3 coordinators and how their teams turned out? All 3 of those teams were in top 10 of time of possession. Seattle has been ranked dead last or second to last in time of possession since 2021. That's 3 years in a row where the Seattle Seahawks can't hold on to the ball for their lives. Overall, I think we do have the talent to compete in the NFC, but we just needed a change in the head coach in order for this team to reach its full potential, I believe.